Society looks at you spending Christmas alone and quietly labels you as broken, unwanted, or failing at life. They imagine empty rooms, missed laughter, and a man who somehow lost the race everyone else seems to be winning. They do not ask questions. They assume weakness because crowds make them feel safe. Noise comforts them. Validation reassures them. Silence terrifies them. What they never tell you is this: choosing solitude is not surrender. It is selection. While others chase approval, you step away from the performance. While they drown in ritual, you observe the machinery behind it. And observation is power. Most people cannot sit alone with their thoughts without reaching for distraction. They confuse company with connection and activity with meaning. You did not. You noticed the cost. You sensed the emptiness beneath the noise. And instead of running from it, you stopped. If you stay with me, you will see why this moment is not a loss but an initiation. Why standing apart now builds strength few ever touch, and why this Christmas may become decisive for you. Society sells a comforting lie during holidays. It tells you happiness requires noise, crowds, and shared rituals performed on schedule. It rewards conformity and punishes deviation with judgment. This is not tradition. This is herd psychology disguised as celebration. The herd fears silence because silence removes comparison. Without others nearby, there is no scoreboard, no applause, no reassurance that you are doing life correctly. So people cling to gatherings they secretly dread, conversations they do not enjoy, and traditions they do not question. They call it belonging, but it is dependency. Validation has become a currency. Attention has replaced meaning, and distraction has replaced self-knowledge. The herd moves together because moving alone requires courage and clarity. Independence exposes truth, and truth demands responsibility. When you step away, they project their fear onto you. They call you lonely to avoid admitting they are hollow. They call you strange to avoid examining their own dependence. The judgment is not about you. It is a defense mechanism protecting their illusions. An independent mind threatens the herd because it proves another way exists. Your solitude challenges their choices. That is why they misunderstand it. That is why they dismiss it. And that is precisely why it matters. Long before modern noise, Stoic thinkers understood the strategic value of solitude. They lived in times of instability, political tension, and social pressure far more severe than today. Yet they deliberately withdrew, not to escape life, but to sharpen themselves for it. Solitude was a discipline. It was where judgment was refined and impulse was restrained. Away from crowds, a man could examine his motives without interference. He could test his values without applause. He could build an inner structure strong enough to withstand external chaos. Stoic authority never came from popularity. It came from self-command. They trained themselves to be sufficient, not celebrated. Calm, not consumed. Grounded, not reactive. In solitude, discipline is revealed. Without witnesses, there is no performance. Only truth remains. How you think, how you endure, how you govern yourself. This is why solitude was respected. It separated those who required constant stimulation from those who could stand alone with their thoughts. One group chased comfort, the other cultivated power. You are not abandoning tradition. You are practicing an older, sharper one, the tradition of self-mastery. And it begins in silence. Solitude and loneliness are not the same. Loneliness is craving. Solitude is choice. One weakens the mind, the other forges it. When you choose to be alone, you remove external influence. There is no one to impress, no one to mirror, no one to perform for. This is where honesty becomes unavoidable. Every weakness speaks, every strength stands exposed. Silence is not empty, it is dense with information. In silence, patterns emerge. You notice how often you seek distraction. You notice which thoughts you avoid. You notice where discipline collapses and where it holds. This awareness is uncomfortable, which is why most men avoid it. They fill every gap with sound. They drown self-reflection with entertainment. But comfort never produced power. Silence creates psychological dominance because it trains control. When you can sit calmly without stimulation, you become immune to manipulation. You are no longer desperate for approval or noise. You move deliberately. While others exhaust themselves maintaining appearances, you conserve energy. While they explain, you observe. While they react, you remain still. Solitude is not retreat, it is preparation. It sharpens perception, strengthens restraint, and builds an internal authority that cannot be taken away. Power grows quietly, and silence is its natural environment. Many relationships are not built on connection. They are built on emotional dependency. People gather not because they understand each other, but because they fear being alone. Validation becomes the glue holding fragile bonds together. This is uncomfortable to admit, but comfort has never been the Stoic aim. Truth has. When connection is driven by the need to be seen, praised, or reassured, it becomes addictive. The absence of others creates anxiety. Silence feels threatening. Independence feels like abandonment. True connection does not require constant presence. It does not collapse in silence. It does not demand performance. It respects autonomy. Stoicism teaches emotional independence. Not isolation, but self-sufficiency. You are complete before you enter a room, not because of it. When you step away during moments of forced togetherness, you test the quality of your attachments. Some bonds weaken because they were never strong. Others remain because they were never dependent. This is not rejection, it is discernment. You are learning which relationships add clarity and which only add noise. Emotional independence removes leverage. When you no longer need validation, manipulation fails. When you no longer fear distance, control disappears. Solitude reveals this truth, and truth once seen cannot be unseen. Not every tradition is sacred. Some are simply repeated without examination. They persist not because they serve growth, but because questioning them creates discomfort. Holiday gatherings often expose this. Forced smiles, predictable conversations, obligations masquerading as love. Many attend out of guilt, not desire. They confuse endurance with loyalty. Stoicism values discernment over habit. Just because something is expected does not mean it is necessary. Just because it is familiar does not mean it is true. Truth often disrupts comfort. Choosing solitude over obligation reveals where tradition has become empty. It forces honesty. It challenges appearances. This does not mean rejecting others, it means refusing falsehood. You do not owe participation in rituals that drain clarity and weaken self-command. Discernment is strength. It requires saying no without explanation. It requires standing firm without applause. When you choose truth over comfort, you pay a social price, but you gain internal alignment. And alignment creates peace. The Stoic path is not designed to please the crowd. It is designed to strengthen the individual. Some traditions deserve respect. Others deserve examination. Wisdom lies in knowing the difference. Silence is not passivity. It is strategy. When the world slows down, you speed up internally. While others celebrate reflexively, you reflect deliberately. Silence creates space for planning. It allows you to examine direction, refine goals, and remove distractions. Without constant interruption, thought deepens. Clarity sharpens. This is where missions are defined, not in crowds but in quiet rooms. Not through noise, but through focus. While they exchange stories, you study patterns. While they repeat the year, you prepare for the next phase. This is not superiority, it is discipline. Silence also conceals intent. You do not announce growth. You do not broadcast preparation. You move quietly. This unsettles others. Silence creates uncertainty. It removes their ability to predict you. While they celebrate, you prepare. While they relax, you strengthen. While they consume, you build. This is not denial of joy. It is postponement for purpose. Strategic silence transforms isolation into advantage. An advantage, when earned patiently, compounds. Solitude removes distraction, and with it, avoidance. Memories surface, regrets appear, old wounds speak. This is not punishment, it is confrontation. Stoicism does not encourage escape from pain. It demands examination. What is faced loses power. What is avoided gains it. In silence, you meet yourself without filters. You confront failures without excuses. You examine decisions without defense. This is uncomfortable because it is honest, but honesty builds resilience. Each confrontation strengthens endurance. Pain processed becomes wisdom. Regret examined becomes instruction. Weakness acknowledged becomes discipline. Most men avoid this work. They numb themselves with noise. They postpone growth indefinitely. You did not. You stayed. You listened. You endured. This is how mental toughness forms. Not through aggression, but through confrontation without collapse. Facing inner demons does not make you fragile. It makes you precise. You understand your limits, your triggers, your strengths. When the inner world is ordered, the outer world loses its threat. You become steady, composed, and difficult to disturb. You are not part of the majority, and that is not a flaw. It is a position. Most men will never understand this choice because they never questioned the noise. Solitude has clarified you. Silence has strengthened you. This Christmas was not empty, it was formative. You stood apart while others followed. You observed while others consumed. You prepared while others distracted themselves. This is the path of the minority. Calm, controlled, unimpressed. You do not need to explain it. You do not need approval. Your strength is internal, your direction chosen. Let others misunderstand, let them judge. You know what this moment was. It was not loneliness, it was power.